Then we go to, well, probably the biggest segment on the show. William Regal walks down the ramp, and they explain that Jon Moxley has been taken out of the building, and now this snake is slithering back after being told to never come back. And Regal introduces MJF. MJF comes out, he embraces Regal, and he reads off an email he received from Regal after the Firm attacked him in the lead up to Full Gear. And Regal said that he is becoming weak, but he has the potential to be the greatest villain of our time. But you have much to learn, but I'm willing to teach you. Don't grab the dynamite ring, but grab the brass one. And so they met behind closed doors, and he admits that Regal is a genius and told him to use the brass knuckles because this will leave Jon Moxley with an emotional scar so he never forgets the day he was outsmarted by MJF. And in regards to the Firm, in not so many words, he basically said, I'm moving on from the Firm. He said, I kind of respect them. They saw a weakness in me and attacked. I would have done the same thing. And chasing after someone like Ethan Page would require effort. And effort is for poors like you. I think that's as much explanation as we're going to get for the Firm. It felt like we are going to address it, and that's it. I'm not going through all these guys.
Yeah, I feel like the end cap on the Firm thing probably came from Stokely Hathaway via his interview in the news this week.
I really feel for this group. Like, it's a tale of two worlds of like what they were. Well, I mean, Stokely indicated as much that they were going to be programmed with CM Punk, and they had tons of plans. And it seems that with the loss of Punk and all the changes that they essentially just became lost in the shuffle. And here they are. They're not attached to MJF. It's we barely even see the group as a whole together anymore, and it just feels
they're on retainer. They come together when they need, I guess.
Yeah. So I mean, they just feel like they are somewhat in no man's land. Like Ethan Page is in a decent spot, but as a group, I think it's fallen way short, and for obvious reasons. Like, it's just plans changed, and they were in a backseat role.
I think MJF certainly needed to address it in this segment. I just don't think coming off of it, I wonder if there was a better way, to leave this story, because they just kind of come off of it feeling like total afterthoughts. And I mean, I guess they got the better of MJF, but for somebody like Ethan Page to be not worth his time, I don't know. I'm not sure. I wonder if there was a better way.
Yeah, I mean, you could certainly maybe second guess like the beatdown of MJF, whereas if they didn't do the whole fracturing of MJF and the Firm, it's sort of like MJF, the first promo was, you're not always going to see these guys with me. It's only when I absolutely need them that, by placing them against each other, it's like you can't even have like some secret alliance or anything like that. It was sort of kind of draw your line in the sand, and it's, here's the bigger heel against the minimal heels, and it just puts the Firm in a position where they're sort of just afterthoughts.
It was all done to, try to sell this MJF. Is MJF a babyface type of storyline? You can argue whether or not it was worth it. I will say that they would be perfect right now for MJF as sort of like a backing group that occasionally shows up to do his dirty work. But they've broken those ties.
So MJF is here to make change. The title needs an upgrade because it's tacky, it lacks class, and reminds him of the previous men that held it. And they're all talented in their own way, but none are on his level. So he tosses the belt down, calling it garbage. And Regal reveals the new championship belt design with a Burberry pattern on the strap. And it is now the big Burberry belt, the 3B, the triple B.
Triple B, yeah.
Tony Schiavone was awesome reacting to this. He was gagging and disgusted at him desecrating their championship belt. I mean, he was just appalled by this.
I mean, it's absolutely hideous, but I think absolutely perfect. I'm sure there are more than a couple people who paid like, I don't know, $400 for one of those replica belts, who were probably quite nervous about what the reveal was going to be underneath, thinking that is their championship now.
Those same people are going to pay $600 for this one.
Fear not, this just appears to be, a temporary custom belt for the MJF reign, and I think I like it. They've done that for the TNT Championship. Why not for the championship? The heavyweight championship whenever it's appropriate, and it's a great heat getting type of thing, similar in vein to the wood belt for Bryan Danielson, which was awesome. This is great too. I love stuff like this.
And then he kind of laid out what felt like 6 months of programs. He called Eddie Kingston a fake tough guy who will never be a world champion. Another fake tough guy is Ricky Starks, who he thinks is a fake star. But the worst of the worst is a fake wrestler like Bryan Danielson, and said that he, compared to me, couldn't wrestle out of a paper bag. I'm going to be champion for a long time, all the way until the bidding war of 2024, and I'm going to use this title as a bargaining chip to get the best contract in history. I just hope the right con foots the bill, and I'm not talking about Tony, but jolly old Saint Nick and my boy Trips. Now, also, after he insulted Danielson, he did go over to Regal and said, I know you tried to teach him, but some people just can't be taught. So he is sick of looking at grotesque wrestling fans, so maybe when his contract's up, he'll go to Hollywood. The fans are fickle. In time, they're going to say that he's boring, that he just talks, that he doesn't wrestle enough. Well, you're going to rarely see me defend this title, and you're going to see me wrestle very sparingly because I'm a special attraction, and most times you'll have to buy a pay-per-view to see me wrestle. And I'm going to make my reign make Hogan's, JBL's, and Jeff Jarrett seem short, and I'm going to make Bruno roll in his shitty little grave.
Is Jarrett known for having like a really long TNA reign?
I mean, it felt like he was champion forever, but there were always like breaks in the championship for Jarrett, so not one that I automatically go to. I mean, of recent memory, it's like Punk had like the real long one in WWE, but I guess his name was not going to be used there.
Yeah.
So everyone respects Regal. MJF says he loves this business, and he says from the bottom of my heart, as he puts on the brass knuckles, he's behind Regal, and then he drills Regal in the back of the head, and down goes Regal. And he says it's funny because you said that I had a lot to learn, yet you are the one that made a deal with the devil. And then in his rewording of the famous email, he says, Will, the game has changed. MJF exclusively hires top talents or top world-class athletes. When you're one of them, send me your stuff. Yours sincerely, the world champion, MJF. A tremendous end to the segment. I'm going to say this segment, it went on for a long time. Yeah. It was a really long promo. And I thought like midway through, I was like, this is not one of his finer works. It was just, it was dragging, but no one is going to remember that. It is going to be a very significant angle at the end here. The announcers treated this as though this is not part of the show. Regal has these real health issues that have been documented, and he is just out cold. And then Danielson runs down, and the idea is like he was coming from the shower or the trainer's room, so he's got one boot on and one boot off, which it's a little thing, but I really appreciate that level of like why he wasn't out sooner. And he's like finding out about this and running down, and it's as though like last week was the angle portion, but this is real, and that ended the segment. And you know, last week, I know there were people who viewed that and they're questioning what is the future for Regal. This one felt much more like a write-off than last week in terms of like, here's a guy without a country. He's burned both sides, and this is like this debilitating attack that at the very least we shouldn't see him for a long, long time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's a bit weird, isn't it? Like with whatever's out there for him right now. So Dave Meltzer did say that the contract he has is for 3 years.
Well, that's what Regal had stated, that it was 3 years.
Okay.
So I mean, if you're going by that, then you know if he's leaving, then he has to be let out of his deal. Which you know up until now, you know Tony Khan has kind of put his foot down on requests to get out. But you know like this angle. I would just say, like, if he's coming back, even if it's with Danielson, it's like it's really diluted once he's turned on the Blackpool Combat Club to almost reverse course. Like this felt like an end to this character.
It feels at least like, an absence for a considerable amount of time. And then maybe with enough time, maybe he can, redeem himself somehow to the Blackpool Combat Club and ask for forgiveness. But for the time being, it seems like we're not going to have William Regal on our TVs on either side of things. And that surprised me here. The fact that I think you had that breakup with MJF so soon after he turned.
And not giving this, and maybe just the idea that it would put sympathy on Regal, but coming out of that pay-per-view and the loss, like you could have done like Moxley takes this guy out, and that's
I mean, this is why I think it's so brilliant. You're using Regal here to build up to Danielson challenging Max.
I think this was the better play. Like by the end of this, Danielson feels like the big match.
Yeah.
And you have two of them in Moxley and Danielson. And after this segment, I mean, you've thrown out, like you have the Starks, that's a TV program. Kingston should be somewhere down the road. Like he was very clearly brought up with links to these guys. And then, like Danielson, like you have that show in Seattle. Like that's a pretty big match for Seattle.
I think when is Revolution?
March.
Okay, that's pretty far. I don't know if they'll make it that far, but I mean, it feels like it's something that might be like better. Like it's good enough for a pay-per-view. So I don't know if they can carry it on for that long, but like Danielson's the strongest challenger I think you have right now because it's a fresh match. Danielson hasn't really been in a title situation. I feel it in a long time, at least on pay-per-view, ever. So I think it's a good direction, and I think they've done a great job of laying the foundation here. Last week, when you had Moxley and Danielson kind of get into it over William Regal, I thought they might have been setting something up between Moxley and Danielson, but it turns out it was just all groundwork for Danielson versus MJF. I thought all of that was done really well. I agree with you. I thought maybe this segment, I rarely feel like MJF segments drag, but I kind of felt that way because I sense we're getting a lot of like generic kind of like heel, bravado rather than like
it was a really long time to go as well. Like it was like he went uninterrupted for over 10 minutes.
Yeah. But I love the belt reveal. I think when he started, getting into his future opponents and Danielson specifically, that was great. And then the turn I thought really clinched it and made this to me one of a really memorable segment by the end.
Like this one segment has sort of like set up like months of stuff like that you draw from those 10, 12 minutes as well. So like overall, I really did enjoy this by the end. I really love the angle with Regal, with what they've done with Danielson, how they handled the Blackpool Combat Club. Like this was a really well thought out angle. And I agree with you. Like this, like if you are in fact writing off Regal, like you did it in a way here that, you got like what's the best you can get is more heat on your top heel and Danielson having a reason to fight for this guy. And he gave, that compelling performance last week talking about how Regal was able to salvage a relationship with Danielson's father.
Yeah.
I thought Danielson was awesome last week. Totally. And it was like the crowd he almost had to overcome who were like, they were chanting like bullshit and stuff. And, I just thought Danielson was tremendous in that segment. And this was a great, chapter 2.
I think, we can look back now and ask if they wanted to get into this final direction here with MJF versus Danielson over William Regal getting attacked. Did Regal need to turn? And obviously, I think to round out this story, the answer is absolutely yes, because it ended so well with, MJF delivering the same lines Regal gave to him via that email here. But also, without that turn on Moxley, we wouldn't have had reason to see how much Danielson loves Regal to protect him, even when he turned on the group. That's how much he cares about this guy. Even when he betrays his faction, he's willing to defend him. I think last week did a great job of showing how much, Danielson loves Regal, and that perfectly set up the sympathy for the attack here.